and letting everyone get settled. This is our first full meeting of our newly sworn in board members. But if all your devices are up and running, don't need any troubleshooting, I'll ask everyone to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance to start our meeting. All right. Everyone is in attendance tonight, with the exception we have 2 board members absent. Dr. Wayok and Ms. Reinartz aren't here, but all other board members are present, so we have a full quorum. Moving on to visitor comments. Let me refresh this page to make sure I have everyone who signed in. All right, forgive my forgive my pronunciation. If I mispronounce your name, please feel free to correct me. I have Jamie Caverly has signed in to speak. Sure. And you feel free to adjust that mic, and we'll make sure it's working for you. We won't start your clock until we make sure you're set.
Okay. We good?
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jamie Caverly, and I am a mother of 3 children, 2 at Hopewell currently, and 1 will be coming in the years to come. I would like to speak to you tonight about full-day kindergarten. Southern Lehigh is currently one of the only school districts in the Carbon-Lehigh Intermediate Unit area that does not have a full-day program. This I find to be a very hard pill to swallow, seeing how our district is one of the top in the area. That being said, I believe it is time that our district take a serious look at investing in a full-day kindergarten program. There are 2 major areas that a full-day kindergarten benefits our students: academically and socially and emotionally. According to a National Education Association article, which I have a printout here for you if you like, longitudinal data demonstrates that children in a full-day classes show greater reading and mathematics achievement gains than those in half-day classes. This can only be done when you allow students and teachers more quality time to engage in constructive learning activities. You have provided these excellent resources, such as Wit and Wisdom, but now all they need is time to fully take advantage of all aspects of the curriculum. As a mother of a kindergarten daughter with an individualized education program, providing enough time is very critical for her to develop academically. She is currently getting pulled into an intervention group, which then takes her away from other meaningful group work within the classroom. There's just not enough time in the day there's not enough time in the day to allow her and other students to receive necessary services and participate in all aspects of the curriculum. This then leads me to the social emotional aspects for our students. The kids that are currently and will be coming into kindergarten were brought up in the COVID world, a social distance chaos. Their social emotional development is already at a disadvantage because of this. Full-day kindergarten would allow for teachers to take advantage of additional learning time and unstructured time. When I mean unstructured time, I refer to recess, center activities, and other times in the day where students can build positive relationships with others and learn how to comprehend their own emotions and showing empathy to others. These are just a couple examples of the benefits that full-day kindergarten programs can provide. I know there will be hurdles to overcome while implementing such a program, but I would be more than happy to join any committee that looks at creating a full-day kindergarten program within our district. Even after communication with other districts, Kelly Rosario from Parkland, she is the director of curriculum, she stated that in her own opinion, a full-day kindergarten program was a very good for Parkland, and they are seeing their students flourish. Why can we not do this for our students as well? Thank you for your time, and please let me know how I can help.
Thank you. Yeah. Right. Well done. Well done. Thank you. And thanks for your comments. This isn't a back and forth, but I just want to let you know that in prior board meetings, the board indicated it did want to hear more about full day K. And so in the future, on a future agenda, it will come up as a topic. So stay tuned. Can't promise any more than that, but thank you very much. All right, moving on from visitor comments, we have superintendent update. Dr. Mahan.
Thank you, Mrs. Geeman. A couple things. First, I want to begin by acknowledging that January is School Board Appreciation Month. It's very appropriate, I think, that you have your first formal meeting. They want to encourage you to keep coming back. So we want to tell you tonight that we very much appreciate all of your efforts. I think we'll have a more formal acknowledgement of School Board Appreciation Month in our meeting later this month in January. But I do want to thank all board members on this occasion for your devotion to the school district and, of course, its students. In another acknowledgement, I'm very happy to welcome Melissa Petronio. Melissa is here tonight, our new high school assistant principal. Melissa, it is so great to have you. Welcome. I know Mr. Miller is very excited about your arrival, cannot come soon enough. And what I'll say is that also you are welcome to stay as long as this meeting goes. But if you are a football fan or care to head out, we would certainly understand. So thank you and welcome to Southern Lehigh. Yes. And another element of an emerging issue is that we are monitoring very closely the weather. We've learned, and as all have been following along on the Weather Channel and other sources, that we're expecting some very significant rains, and with the melting of snow, we could be in a situation where we'll be monitoring closely tomorrow the prospect of an early dismissal. Again, no decisions are made yet. We're, again, monitoring the weather, but again, it is a very serious concern and one that, we want people to stay tuned to as the tomorrow unfolds during the day. And there's, as far as district updates, I want to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about the Southern Lehigh Education Foundation. I think it's a really great time because late in December, the foundation was able to write a check to the school district to cover the entire cost of dual enrollment credits for all of our students who qualify for free and reduced lunch. And so this board and previous boards, there was a big push and concern to say, hey, let's get this up and running. And while the Southern Lehigh Foundation is new and emergent at this point under its current leadership, it really did knock off a very positive thing for our students in our district. And in addition, it also was able to underwrite something called Science Explorers, which are these cool science presentations that are going on in some of our buildings. We had one just before the break. I think we have a few more scheduled along the way where kids will come over and just engage in these very positive, upbeat, science-related activities to build interest in science. And so for the purpose of the board, maybe new members who have not been following along or had the opportunity to gain information about the foundation. The foundation is Southern Lehigh Education Foundation is a private organization, separate and distinct from the school district. The board members, and some of these names may be familiar with you, but Jim Zellner is the president of the foundation. Jessica Swartz, Peter Bio, Kristen Quirk, Colin Keefe, and Janelle Makowski are the leadership group on the foundation. And they've been raising money and trying to put together information for the community. There's a link to the foundation on the website. They're very interested in maintaining their independence because they are, again, separate and distinct to the school district, but they're also very much interested in gaining information and input and doing great things for the school as they build up their money. So again, I wanted to take the occasion to thank them for underwriting the dual enrollment credits to kids who really need a little bit of help here. And again, they look forward to continuing the support in the district and the ongoing engagement with the school district. So with that, I'll pause in case there are any questions or if there's any need for discussion on the foundation. Yes.
I'm going to take a stab at this, Mike.
Yes.
So the Science Explorers demonstration, one thing I just wanted to ensure, is this focused on just in certain buildings, or is this full inclusive amongst all buildings for these demonstrations for like the STEM based?
I don't know if they make it to the high school, but every building that has like an interest and is appropriate for this is included or has been offered this opportunity. And it's a one-off thing. It's not a matter of curriculum. It's just a really cool presentation to get kids excited about science.
Nice. And
It goes up to sixth grade.
Up to sixth
Yep.
grade.
up to
There you go.
6 grade. Okay, awesome. With that, then I guess then two parts. One, is there anything in the future for encouraging that beyond sixth grade? And obviously, I know it's a private entity. Nobody's here from them to represent in terms of. But I'd be curious to hear what plans are in regards to that. But then additionally, for the foundation, do they have plans outside of? So these are two great things that are instituted, which is awesome and amazing. I want to see that and continue to be encouraged. Do they have other stuff on the agenda that folks can kind of understand and see where things are going, and folks of the community can kind of get engaged and get behind, so that way then maybe by knowing what's available or what the plans are or what the vision is, you might get more donors and you might get more folks to really get some horsepower behind this.
Yes. And first of all, I'll tell you is that I am not a member of the foundation.
Yep.
They invite me to the meetings, which I'm very happy to attend. And what they wanted to do initially, and I don't speak for them, so if they could correct me if I'm wrong here, but they really wanted to be successful on some very focused issues to start. And their number one priority was the dual enrollment, because they thought that was it is a district priority, a district goal and objective. And they thought it was really great to have their initiative reach out to kids who need some help there. And so I think they are very wide open to expanding and identifying programs. They have very much engaged with Dr. Trinkle and Dr. Solometto about, hey, like what's going on? But I think they're being wisely cautious in narrowing their focus to reflect their the amount of money they have raised. And then going forward, I think they're open to expanding, and they have been doing great fundraising activities. They had, an invitation event where they had raised some money. They've been reaching out to community members, but I think just as they're coming out of the gate, they have big plans. But so I think in time, those questions will be answered. Yeah.
Mike, I had a question about the dual enrollment. Is that something that they anticipate being an ongoing fund that they continue to fund? So folks who are hearing this tonight and know they qualify for those free and reduced, because I know as a high schooler, I sometimes turned down opportunities because I thought it would be a hit to my, the household paycheck. So is that something that our guidance counselors are aware of and that's an ongoing, or is that just something this year? Or is that something that can we tell those students, is that something you can count on to have a reduced tuition, or potentially, you said it's great this year they had enough to give a free tuition to those individuals. And I know there's a supply and demand issue, element of this, but do you have any insight there?
Yes, their hope, and they are very devoted to this, and they're out raising money, but their hope is to cover tuition for dual enrollment on an ongoing basis.
That's
all right?
wonderful.
And a continual basis. And we did announce, and we actually reached out specifically to students this year who did qualify to say, hey, if you take these courses, we have you covered. And we anticipate, and that's really remarkable. And I think we need to celebrate that and maybe even write an article or something, because that's great, right? That we have colleges and universities who are, working hard to connect with us from a partnership. And we also have a private organization that's helping our kids. And I'll tell you, Lehigh Carbon Community College has highly transferable credits, and they're only charging us $30 a credit here. And so this is, I think the first year we had this, I think fair criticism could say, well, we didn't get the word out as much. We, I think, did an excellent job through Mr. Miller's leadership and Dr. Trinkle's getting word out this year. We need to grow and build this, and the fact that we have the foundation supporting us in this way is hugely positive. And we think, in short answer to your question, that this is something that kids can rely on going forward.
Thank you. That's great to hear.
I just wanted
Yeah.
to say I ran into a friend who said her daughter graduates this year with half her associate's degree already from doing the classes. So she'll only have to go to state school for 3 years.
It's good to hear.
It's really good. It's a really good thing.
So thanks to the foundation for that and for continuing that. And also, again, kudos to getting the word out. I know this year that deadline, both Dr. Krinkle and Mr. Miller, that deadline for enrollment got pushed a little bit more. It gave parents more time and students more time to be aware. So you didn't have to know what you were doing right there in September. So thanks for extending that and working with kids and families to get as many signed up as possible.
Okay. Now that concludes my report,
Okay.
but I have a brief introduction to our presenters. If
Absolutely. I see we have curriculum and staff specifically dealing with the high school. So yes,
Yes.
by all means.
And so I'm very fortunate to call on Dr. Trinkle and Dr. Solometto, our assistant superintendent and our director of curriculum. As members will recall, we spoke last meeting. Well, the last time we weren't here before reorganization. The last meeting before reorganization, we talked about our high school curriculum. We're very proud of the fact that our administrators, our teachers, our staff have been working really hard on this project. We've made some really good progress. There were some very good questions that arose last time, and we have two highly capable, the best people here to talk about, where we are, and particularly to respond to some of the questions that arose in our last meeting. So,
Yes.
Dr. Trinkle and Dr. Solometto,
Thank you, Dr. Mann. Thank you for that introduction. Tonight, you'll be hearing from us. We're speaking to you about Study Sync specifically as it relates to grade 12. This evening, we'll provide an update as it relates to our presentation from October. So in October, we presented to members of the board and made a recommendation for the adoption of Study Sync, which is by McGraw-Hill, as our core curricular resource for grades 7 through 11. This recommendation was a result of a comprehensive review process involving representatives from various stakeholder groups, as well as a close look at our data, as well as a look at our instructional needs. You'll recall, though, that 12th grade was not initially proposed in that recommendation. At that time, we were still kind of operationalizing what that looked like for grade 12. And with both great reflection and feedback, we spent a little bit more time assessing our needs in grade 12, specifically for Study Sync. As a reminder, Study Sync is a research-based core ELA curriculum. This recommendation was process-driven and was facilitated in a collaborative manner. And during the selection process, Study Sync was unanimously accepted by both teachers and administration in the process for grades 7 through 11. With our ongoing district efforts towards literacy and our curricular evaluation process, we are providing update now tonight to include grade 12 and move forward with a 7 through 12 comprehensive core ELA program. Just constant reminder how short I am.
I was trying to do it so subtly. We have quite a few new board members here tonight, so I will take just a few moments to recap some of the highlights around our process and ultimate decision to recommend Study Sync. So if you were here when we made our initial recommendation in October, you may hear me repeat some things, but I think that it's all important information and all of it bears repeating. For many years, teacher-created materials had been used as the backbone of our English instruction here at the middle and the high school level, and 12th grade was no exception. Teachers have done a remarkable job of creating and delivering units based upon quality literature. They have worked very hard to ensure that students are acquiring and developing the skills necessary to become successful readers and writers. Our teachers deserve tremendous credit for their many years of dedication and hard work in this regard. With all of that said, teachers have been without a research-based instructional resource that provides them with the tools for differentiation, data analysis, and options for customization of their instruction. Teachers have been doing much of this on their own, but this takes a very long time, thereby leaving teachers with less time to focus on their teaching. Implementation of a high-quality resource in our middle and high school ELA classrooms will support the great instruction already occurring and have countless benefits for both students and teachers. So, a quick reminder of our process that we took to get us to that recommendation. So, our curriculum review process began early in the spring of 2023 with a close examination of ed reports. ELA teachers took professional development time to closely look at the programs that ed reports had reviewed and complete an evaluation tool. From this exercise, 3 programs emerged as worthy of further evaluation. Vendors from these top 3 programs were then invited to come and provide product demos and answer questions. All ELA teachers were invited to attend those demos. Following the demos, a representative committee of teachers and administrators from the middle and the high school was formed to dive deeper into this curriculum work over the summer. The committee consisted of 5 teachers from the middle school and 3 teachers from the high school, as well as building administrators from both levels. The committee closely examined our current programming as well as student data to determine our top priorities in a new program. This needs assessment led to the creation of yet another evaluation tool, which ELA teachers used early this fall to determine our top choice. At the conclusion of the process, our ELA department unanimously chose StudySync. Once we had decided on StudySync, we began preparing a recommendation to the board, which is what I shared with you in October. So just briefly, there's a lot I could say here, but I'll give you the highlights. What's so great about StudySync? What made this our top choice? StudySync provides the materials and curricular resources necessary to deliver cutting-edge 21st century instruction in our ELA classrooms. Texts and topics are highly engaging, and content is made readily accessible to students, teachers, and families alike through their easy-to-navigate digital platform. But perhaps the aspect of StudySync that was most universally appreciated by the committee was the flexibility that it provides teachers when choosing texts and assigning tasks. Teachers can rest assured that they are teaching to the standards and presenting a level of rigor appropriate for each learner while still exercising a degree of autonomy within the parameters of the text and lesson materials provided by StudySync. StudySync provides high-quality raw material from which our teachers can pull to craft exceptional learning experiences for our students. The committee was in agreement that what we wanted was a program that would elevate the great instruction that we're already providing, and StudySync provides the leverage for us to do so.
So with this great work, as it continues, we're committed to supporting our staff, and that looks like research-based materials and high-quality professional development. We're committed to utilizing a systemic, process-driven approach towards our curricular initiative and goals. While there may be movement within that process, there may be adjustments that are necessary, and we recognize the significant work that has been done. We're highly encouraged that this great work will continue within a process that focuses on literacy. And we're open to ideas for future opportunities that will we ultimately remain committed to StudySync for grade 12 within this implementation process. With the StudySync implementation in grade 12, we have a comprehensive 7 through 12 ELA core program that focuses on our core competencies and continues the great work that has already been taking place through K-6 with literacy. While opportunities do exist for consideration for electives in ELA, this would be in addition to, not in place of, core ELA. With our district efforts toward literacy, StudySync offers a huge range of materials and resources in professional development, highlighting the value of both consistency and continuity that has durability and built-in supports for our students and our teachers.
Here you can see outlined our next steps in our process. So we intend to bring the 12th grade component of the program to the board for your approval on the January 22nd meeting. As you may have heard me say in October, truly the biggest consideration for us here is time. Because the program is so robust with such a vast array of instructional offerings, teachers will require a significant amount of time learning the program as well as selecting the resources that best meet the needs of their courses and their students, all while considering vertical alignment from grade level to grade level. The task of rewriting their curriculum to incorporate StudySync resources, while worthwhile and exciting, will be substantial. The same can be said of professional development. The PD offerings through StudySync are extensive and meant to be tailored to the needs of teachers. We recognize that there are going to be some groups of teachers, such as special education teachers, that may have the need for PD targeted at specific aspects of the program. Time will be taken to carefully select from the PD options StudySync provides to determine a pathway that meets the needs of all of our groups of teachers. So once again, we cannot overemphasize the great contributions of our teachers to this process, and we thank them for their flexibility as we make continued revisions to our programming to best meet our district goals and objectives. And as always, we appreciate the support of the board. So thank you.
Thank you. The October 23rd presentation was wonderful. I got a chance to sit here. I'll open it up to others who might have questions at this time, Stephen, Mr. Mond.
Thanks. I had a question. You were talking about inclusion in 12th grade and the rationale, and there was a bullet in there. It says teachers exercise autonomy in choosing texts they feel will support student interest engagement. So I guess my question is with that, are there certain offerings within StudySync that they are choosing from, or is it just an open situation?
There is a library of texts included within the StudySync platform with thousands of texts that they could choose from, but it's all included within the StudySync platform. Yes.
The reason I ask that is for curriculum standardization within the school district, because we've had, in the past, certain challenges there. So that's why I was asking that. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm only saying names so that people know who's talking because everyone's new.
That's
Ms.
right.
Cruz, Candy Cruz, go ahead.
Thank you. I have two questions based on today's presentation. I know there was a lot of conversation at the October board meeting about electives and which electives and were the electives that were proposed the right ones. Can we talk a little bit about what caused us to change direction from the original discussion from the ELA professionals to this one?
Well, that process was inclusive, but I think we went, when I mentioned that in the beginning, where we kind of went back and we assessed where grade 12 and what the needs as a whole ELA core and what the departments across the district would require. And Dr. Solometa mentioned that too, when you're developing some of your own coursework that requires annual review, annual work, that gets built in to these core ELA programs. It also provides standards alignment to our core competencies that we're looking to accomplish, not just in K through 6, but 7 through 12. So that was one reason we kind of went back and said, hey, in addition to our core, these are options that we absolutely would like to consider, but not in replacement of core. So that was, I think that probably answers your question the best.
So would any electives be available for 24-25, or would that be like a 25-26? Understanding the lift here.
Well, I think there's a multitude of variables that go into that, and that those are still in development. So I can't confidently say that those would even have been ready for 24-25. I think maybe that would have been the goal. But when we're doing our program of study and approval for that, we would be remiss not to include those in there as we move forward. Most likely the following year, if we can, if that great work continues, which we would absolutely love to see occur. But because we're kind of a month ahead on the program of study, it would have been a tight pathway.
That was my final question around timeframe, because I remember in the October meeting, there was board conversation about trying to maybe not approve it that night. And the conversation was that it needed to be approved so there was adequate time. Is there adequate time to get this ready for 12th grade?
For StudySync? Yes. Okay. Yes. We have some alignment to do, and we had some alignment anyway to do. So we will redesign some of our time and certainly afford teachers all the time that they need to do that, to get that work done. And we'll stand side by side to help them do that.
Thank you, Dr. Trinkle.
So I guess one of the questions I have from back in that October meeting, so there was comments from the prior board that there might not be support on certain curriculum extras that were had. There's a new board here. But my question is, it sounded like from that meeting that teachers were putting in a lot of work already behind what those specific extra curriculum courses were. It was paused for this point in time. What were the teachers doing in the meantime? Were they still working on the other curriculum, or where did the change happen? Because if we're a month behind or things have changed, I guess my concern is there any kind of misdirection, or is there any kind of double downing on work that the teachers had to do before this is even discussed about or talked about now?
No, because we have professional development time assigned to that and other time frames built in to do that work. So I don't think we have any concerns regarding moving forward and plugging away for 12th grade. We were looking at alignment anyway. That process was taking place K to 12, regardless of those courses as described in October. So we were doing that alignment.
Gotcha.
Regardless.
Okay.
We did have to go back and have some discussions, obviously, and and talk about process and talk about our curricular process and how that evaluation looks. And from a 7 through 12 lens, this is the core program that best supports our teachers from a core perspective, from a research-based professional development, to give them the support that they need, and for our students. That to say, in addition to, those electives are certainly in consideration.
Okay.
Not in replacement of core.
Gotcha. Yeah, I saw that in there. So
Mhm.
that's why I wanted to kind of just hash out
Yeah.
and make sure what the focus is and what our teachers are actually working on and what the
Yeah.
plan is
You know-
there. So that way we make sure that we're ready. Because I do have concerns in regards to preparation
Mhm.
with everything else that's going on with the State of the Union, with the IT piece, which we've all heard plenty of things about. My biggest concern is do the teachers have enough time to be successful when this is rolled out and ready to go for the next the grades that are going to be using this? And preferably for the next meeting, I would love to see what a rollout plan looks like to
Implementation.
ensure
Mhm.
that, I mean, whether it's career development or the in-service type days, is that going to be focused on specifically language teachers are pulled out specifically, and this is going to be their primary focus on?
We're doing that anyway.
Perfect.
For grades 7 through
Good.
11.
Yeah.
We certainly have a plan for implementation.
Good.
There's always kind of, movement within that process.
Yep.
We're able to adjust and make adjustments as needed. And with any curricular initiative, whether it be ELA or math or science or whichever content area we're up here speaking to you about, the utmost priority is supporting our teachers in that process. And I think you'll be able to see great examples of that through Wit and Wisdom. Are there challenges? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is it, I mean, I'd be lying if I said it was an easy, like everybody does this in their sleep. This is because we are providing the best instruction, the most exceptional instruction to our students. And we want to provide our teachers with the best tools to do that.
Is there, out of curiosity, is there any other districts that we can look to that maybe have implemented this, that we can kind of
We already have.
see what
Yes.
challenges they had, so we can kind of head the pass off and not?
Dr. Silometa has
same
already
thing?
been doing that. Parkland
Excellent.
is the one that comes to mind. They just re-upped, and they are through grades 9 through 12. They are up to 12th grade. We've been partnering, and which was the other district? Yeah. Bethlehem. That escaped me. I was saying North Penn. But both districts we've been in constant discussion and dialogue with.
We call them the district to the door.
Yes.
We don't really call them the name.
Parkland.
It's passed around a lot.
Yeah. So, but we've reached out. We reached out from its inception to start creating those relationships with
Good.
neighboring school districts, so as to come head on to any potential challenges that they experienced. The district that's close to us just re-upped their study sync. Yes, just extended their agreement, and had discussed some of the challenges early on, and it was alignment, and that I think takes place at any grade level.
Thanks. Actually, Mr. Boyer's question kind of dovetailed. Just so I'm understanding, in October. So, and you explained the process so well. And what love that I'm hearing is that it sounds like through offsite visits and supports teachers, and this is going Study Sync. We already in October approved it to be implemented from 7th through 11th grade. And so what I'm hearing is, and I just want to try to understand the change. What I'm hearing is the board approved in the October meeting Study Think for 7th through 11th. And then, and teachers were here that night and explained that electives were going to be available to 12th grade. And that is how the 12th grade curriculum was going to be handled. So Study Sync wouldn't need to be purchased for 12th grade it was thought at that time. And they were working on building those. And at that meeting, it was my understanding that we'd come back, of course, we're going to hear about the course of studies again tonight. We would hear more about those electives and that process and how that would work tonight. And that's not what we're hearing. So am I understanding correctly that the team of 12th grade and the team overall, but those teachers who were working on building that curriculum through that process, you all met and discovered and realized as a team that Study Sync was going to be needed for 12th grade, and that's why we're here tonight? Is that my understanding? Because the Study Sync 12, I wasn't anticipating this tonight, but if that's the decision and that's why we're being presented with this, is that where we are? And now, and my only additional question with that is, what will the additional cost be since we already approved? Because I don't see that in the presentation. That's another factor.
Yes. I'm gonna weigh in on that one.
Okay.
Or if I may. And so while it is very fair to say things were absolutely unanimous all the way through to 11th grade, there was, I think, some very spirited discussion over the electives. And actually, they weren't really electives, because like an elective would be you take the core program and then you take something in addition to the core program. The suggestion was that the courses being developed outside of StudySync would actually be what the 12th graders would take, right? And well, they would have to take something, right? And it would not be StudySync. And those electives, and this is the point that why I'm trying to answer this question, because it kind of speaks more broadly to the overall approach we've taken here in the district. And I'll go back to a meeting we had 2 years ago, and it was a very profound meeting that we had with members of the English department and social studies department here in the high school. And they said to us, look, we are on our own here, right? We are working very hard, and not only are we teaching and doing our assessments, but we're writing our curriculum and we're doing our research, and we're not getting what we need. And furthermore, we are subject to the whims of criticism of everybody in the community from this broad range of political perspectives, left, right, and everywhere in between. And could you please step up and help us, right? And we said we will, but we're starting with K through 3, because that was kind of true at K through 3 as well. And so we kind of built it up in a systemic way, right? So we get to the StudySync and we land on it. Like, this is the next thing, right? And we land on it because there's, to Mr. Boyer's question, right? There is opportunity not just for professional development between now and the start of the year, right? But there is ongoing, continual professional development forever, right? Because this is a clearly articulated program with huge resources that has a company standing by. So our teachers now can focus on the great work they do teaching rather than researching and writing curriculum and everything else, because there is a great resource for them to have, to be trained upon, to build their practice. And we like it because, to Mr. Mon's question, it's broad, right? That it's not just 3 books and this is what you do. There's many, many books, and we're going to work to select them. But once you get a book in StudySync, there's a huge amount of resources that back that up, right? And so, and this is important, right? Right now, if you are hired as an English teacher at the high school, right, you will surely be supported by your colleagues with the work they did, right, and they've accumulated. And if someone were to leave, they kind of take a lot of that stuff with them, because there's not a systemic, process-driven approach, and therefore our teachers are in the lurch, and that's what they made clear to us, right? And they were right. And so we have been working for time now through Dr. Trinkle and Dr. Solon Meadows' leadership to address that, right? Now, they said, the teachers, some of them said, it would be cool if we could do this stuff. And I agree with them, right? They were developing like niche novels, which they were saying, and they were working on their own, right? And I think we could find ways to incorporate that kind of excitement. For instance, one of the classes is
Film theory.
Is film theory, right? And it's based on a film theory at the University of Pittsburgh that we can connect for dual enrollment, right? How amazing would that be, right? And if someone could take that course and do an elective in it, right? But here's my concern about having electives for 12th grade, right? We would be back exactly where we were before we started, right? Because we would have actually K through 12 here with programs that they can train on every year, is consistent across the board. And we would then at 12th grade have standalone courses that we are back developing very well, no question, right? The same way we have been doing all along. And that, I thought, would completely undermine the whole thing that we're trying to achieve. And that is a systemic support team. Because if we have a teacher or two who work so hard to support this and develop that class, and then they win the lottery and leave, all right, and that next person comes in, we're at a bit of a loss, right? Whereas if we have an elementary teacher who leaves, we have Foundations, and we have Haggerty, and we have Wit and Wisdom, and their whole department has been trained in that, and off we go, and we don't miss a beat, right? And so what I expressed as a concern, right, and not all people signing on to this, particularly those who are working hard at the high school, say, look, we need a systemic approach, and that's all the way through with Study Sync. Now, to the extent that we want these electives, film theory for one of them, and there's some others there too, we can work on that. But I think it's in addition to, not in place of Study Sync. And that's my response to the excellent question that you raised.
Okay, so now, thank you for, I believe, correcting me. I just want to be clear. So, yeah, answering. So my understanding, correcting my understanding, because my understanding, I guess, was, I'm hearing not correct in that the teachers, a part of the Study Sync process, 7 through 11, unanimously, wanted Study Sync, and then 12th grade, with the individuals who spoke here at the October meeting, were developing the electives program. So now my understanding is that it was really your direction that you didn't, like, was that a team decision? The teacher, because I want to acknowledge that teachers do not get paid to write curriculum here.
Right.
And those teachers worked over the summer, and they worked the October meeting very enthusiastic.
Right.
And I just want to understand the process by which, like, the price of the additional curriculum, and also the process by which, so are you saying could you explain to me whether this was like how this decision was made between October and, you said we'll bring those electives back to the board and we'll talk more in depth about those 4 electives. So could you I just want to be clear, like, is this a central office administrative? Is this, Dr. Mann is saying, in my expertise and in my experience, this is the direction we need to go?
Well, he is
and you're
saying
the
that.
captain.
He
You're
is
the
saying
captain.
that. He is saying
but
that.
I just want to be clear on the process.
And no, he is saying that for sure.
Okay.
Right. And I don't think, and teachers can speak for themselves, apparently have been, right? And that's great, right? That we are not saying we don't want electives here.
No,
we're not saying that we want to kink this thing. We are saying that we do not want a core required course, our core to be an elective outside just in 12th grade. And I think, and the last thing I will do is speak for the teachers, right? I don't think there's anyone objecting to Study Sync. They think it's a good thing, right? But they want to do more with these exciting electives that they're developing. And I think we're saying, look, we will encourage that, right? But
Absolutely.
not in place of the core curriculum, because that sends us back to the problem that we're trying to solve systemically through the operation here, right? We're saying it's Study Sync through and through, because that is what we have been saying all along. We respect and admire the teacher's desire to develop some cool things. That's not doing it justice, but I'm just calling it that, cool things with the curriculum, respond to kids' interests and all that kind of thing. And I'm saying we can do it, but not in place of, in addition to.
I know I see Ms. Torba wants to ask some questions. I just want to clarify one thing when you were answering, and thank you for that answer. So I am hearing that, the administrative decision was to go in this direction, and, not necessarily a team decision, but hey, you're the captain of the ship and that's how it goes. And I understand that. But my other clarifying in answering that question, one of the things you said was that apparently the teachers have been talking about this. I just want to make clear my motivation for talking about this tonight and being so invested is not because a teacher who was writing curriculum came to me about this at all.
Right.
So when you say apparently the teachers have been talking to the board, this is my perspective I'm giving in transparency to the community, which is I heard that finally we were going to have English electives at the high school. And as a board member who has had students go through the high school, I know that English is really the only department where there are no electives. And when I heard that, and when I heard the electives that were going to be made available, that I think would hit the interests of some students whose interests were waning in English, but they were still taking it in 12th grade. And when I heard the excitement of the teachers who were preparing that, and when I heard the scuttlebutt from kids after that meeting talking about sports. I could do sports English, film. I could do film English, literature. When I heard that, I was very excited about, I'm really excited about the support. We absolutely needed this improvement in the language arts, and I fully support Study Sync. And I would have, if presented in the October meeting, 7 through 12, I would have said, yes, please, we need this. This is a huge improvement. Y'all have done the work, and I cannot wait to see it rolled out. But I found it very, it really struck me, but we're not including 12th, and this is why. And that explanation made sense, and I saw passion in kids and passion in teachers, and it was one of those like, wow, we really are making strides. And so I thought tonight I was going to hear a presentation about those great electives. And so that's the only reason I am questioning that. And I don't mean it as an attack. I just want to understand the process. And it sounds like if your decision is that we need these core, then I have another set of questions to ask. But I'm trying to wrap my head around the information I'm hearing tonight, given what I thought I was going to hear tonight, and given the excitement from teachers and students. And if they weren't involved in that decision, sometimes that has to happen, Mike, and I understand that, but I'm glad you're owning that decision, because it helps me as a board member, understand why and how this decision was made. That's all.
Right. And what I will say is, as the process was going on, the 12th grade aspect of this was, we always thought that this was going to be a through 12th grade. Right. So this was an added decision into it, and we're not opposed to electives. So some of that very excitement and like, for instance, the play, the theater thing, those will be emergent. I also think, in fairness, right, that we may not have been in the best place to say, here's the course ready to go and approve it, because as far as its development, they're still emergent.
Right. And I think we're looking to do both in a way, step by step. I don't think we can do all of it at one time.
And just as we need,
but I think that's fair.
Just as we need some time to get ready for Study Sync, right? We are not now in a position to say, well, we have these courses ready to go, let's approve them tonight, and they'll also be ready. Right. We don't. And so what I'm saying is that our primary focus, as it has always been, is on this. This emergent discussion has been really good and will result in really good things over and above the Study Sync. But we were getting off path to the extent that we were considering not doing Study Sync in 12th grade. And so to the extent that I'm involved, it was to say, not forget the electives, but this completely departs with what we have thought to be a process-driven approach, and what we actually heard from people in our staff to say we need this support. And so that is the motivation of what it is we were doing.
And I think just to answer the question about the cost, we have only tentative numbers, because I think we need to go through, we just like we did for grades 7 through 11, we would not want to take that time for alignment without board approval. But we have some estimates anywhere between an additional $35,000 to $40,000, which is well within a budget, I think, at this point, our curriculum budget or other grant funded line items that we have. So that cost, we have some flexibility there. But we think that's around where it'll be.
Dr. Schenkel, quick question then, since you just alluded to cost. Okay, she's on cost. I wanted to stay on cost. Being that we delayed 12th grade from back in October, did we miss the boat on any kind of potential discounts?
No.
For extra students or larger?
No, we can easily, we were able to negotiate with Study Sync and do that. And we have some other ways that we save money on shipping through percentage decreases that we use. The name is escaping me. Book It. Thank you. For reduced costs in shipping and those types of things. So we're always looking to sharpen the pencil, so to speak, on that.
Is it like a contract based, or is this like a reoccurring every year or one time?
Well, I think it was a 3-year agreement that we got for 7 through 11. So we would just do that same thing for 12. I think there are other options, but we thought 3 years was a substantial commitment to that process.
Do they allow more?
I believe they do, up to 6, I believe.
Because I from hearing what everybody says, because I fully agree with what everybody said in regards to having that support mechanism for the software. I think it's great. If we're all in on this, I'd like to see what the exploration is for doing 6 versus doing 3, and substantially, potentially 3 years down the road. I mean, the price of living is not going down. So, I mean, if we're all in, then maybe let's look at all in for 6 and get a cost there versus doing 3 and realizing, yep, we're definitely all in. And then we pay a much higher price in 3 years again when we could have offset that now.
We can certainly take a look at what those quotes would be.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Just be curious. Thank you.
Eric, you bring up a great point about contract, but it would be based, I'd want to hear the recommendation based off curriculum and the lifespan of it, 3 or 6.
3 gives you time to do a little bit of
Yes,
that. And really
vendors are always willing to work.
Absolutely.
I'm probably thinking out loud because a lot of my questions were entertained, so I appreciate that. And I'm sure our 12th grade English department is looking for something solid to drive core courses. I was excited to hear those electives that were also, and I'm hearing they're in addition, they're not replacing. Study Sync would drive the core. Now we have resources and tools then for our teachers. And if this is what they agree to, that makes sense. Those electives, we're doing a great job. We heard earlier about the dual enrollment, the college credit, and a lot of those electives kind of seemed gearing our students who are looking towards higher ed. And I love that I heard, and I'm sorry, I forget who mentioned that it could count towards that credit. That would be awesome.
Yes.
So if if our teachers were already working on that, the curriculum for those electives, and I'm startled that there was, we don't pay for our teachers to write that curriculum. I'm a little shocked at that. But now, is it paused, or can we, or we're not at the point to make that decision? I get it's a lot because our teachers are going to have a lot of programs to be ready for 24, 25.
Right.
Bringing on, other platforms that are going to be brand new to our staff. So Eric's question about the rollout process, that would be awesome to tie into all the other things on the plate that our staff and educators will be implementing. Hate to see if we pump the brakes on some of those electives, or in that rollout, maybe if they're not all offered, how does that work? And I don't know, I'm not an expert, but that would come from what our teachers could do, or how far we were completing that curriculum, even at a high level, if our teachers were comfortable, because those courses probably long overdue for Southern Lehigh, being that our neighbors do offer them. And it totally runs in tandem with our dual enrollment. So I don't think I have a question. I'm anxious for the rollout and offerings, and let's not press pause.
No.
Because we got to scramble for time. And I know PD time is limited with
all of our other
other projects that are
have to
geared up.
January is largely focused already
So
on one
I
particular
think
issue. Right.
overall, let's be sensitive to the time it's going to take to roll this out, in addition to the other projects.
Absolutely.
And not have anyone feel they're building the plane and flying it.
And that's a great point, I think, because I think you're ultimately saying we want to just take our time and be thoughtful in doing this. And not to say that nobody was. That's not what I'm saying. But in order to roll this out, we have to be thoughtful and practical, because the demands are high. And knowing that and coupling that with professional development and everything else that we're asking all of our staff to do, we want to be thoughtful with that. So we're gonna have to take one step at a time, which is what our process for curriculum evaluation and implementation looks like. We're not saying no. We're saying let's reevaluate how these fit in, and let's encourage this great work. So we're just gonna have to take our time. So it would be hard for me to say what year or when, and not because we're doing program of study tonight, but that does make it a little difficult without, a full course description and step-by-step scope and sequence to offer you. And that would be challenging for us to do today in a program of study.
Dr. Trickle, I just want to say that I'm a fan of incremental implementations. And I think when you look at all the moving gears and levers of getting this implemented throughout the school district, there's a lot going on. And at least in my experience, when you have big projects, they inherently get stuck in the mud And if you bite off too much at once, you start losing the wind to get those initial strategies implemented. So I think that's
it's
the
one bite
bottom
of the
line of it, right?
One bite of the elephant at a time. That's the approach we're taking. It really is just a thoughtful, supportive way, while encouraging some great independent work. And how we fit that in, we will go back and support our teachers to do that. But it's one bite at a time. This is a big, big undertaking for ELA.
I got another one for you, Dr. Trinkle.
It's Dr. Solometo's turn.
Oh, okay. Well, hey,
I'm just
whichever.
kidding. I'm just kidding.
Hey, flip a coin.
Sorry,
My question is in regards to understanding that it's a support mechanism and it's there for the teachers to pull from and create that curriculum or in tandem with what's available from it. What is the process for if a teacher's absent just from my familiarity with technology, right? Our substitutes, I mean, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe that they have the opportunity to fully go through all the training that our teachers do. What does that look like from a perspective with substitutes for if a teacher's absent for using this tool? Because I know in old school days, like when I was here, it was pen and paper and you transfer that on.
I'm going to let Dr. Solometo.
So, perfect. There you go.
We'll take it.
So I was just kind of curious, not that, just that we don't miss the fact that if we have folks absent, that when we have a substitute in, we kind of miss classroom time because there's a setback.
Always tough when you have that, changing, passing of the torch there, even if it's for just a day. If it, we're talking about like a day or two, when teachers are not here, as you know, of course, they're leaving plans for their sub, and through having a resource like StudySync at their fingertips, it will, I anticipate, be easy enough for them to be able to direct their sub to do whatever is necessary through the digital platform, and the resources are there and the necessary teaching materials will be there. So talking from the perspective of, teachers only going to be out for a couple of days, StudySync is a nice resource to have at your disposal because it kind of makes being not there that much easier. If you're talking about the situation in which we have a teacher who is out for an extended period of time, and then that person assumes the role of an extended term sub, depending on the length of that stay of that teacher, we may end up assigning that teacher a mentor. Even if the stay is not quite that long, they have the support of their department that can kind of come in and show them how to use the resources. But we have those in-house supports built in, and that would be true for StudySync, Wit and Wisdom, any other curricular resource that we have in place. If a teacher isn't there and they have somebody filling in, we have these kind of backup mechanisms in place so that that substitute can pick up where the teacher left off best as they can and continue the work.
No, that's great, because I just wanted to, last thing I want to hear is from being a member of the community and stuff, is come roll out and we have a teacher absent, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, we didn't really do much today because the teacher substitute couldn't really get into the system, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. I mean, there's always a learning curve, again.
Correct. I just want to know if there's an opportunity to kind of close that gap with like the substitutes that we normally have, because normally we get pretty much a regular staff. Like if there's an opportunity to get them familiar with the tool, so that way it's not a learn by fire day of with students in the classroom.
I think it's a great suggestion. One of the things that we like about StudySync, when I was talking about PD and just kind of doing a very general overview, is that they offer a lot of PD options that are webinars that are available right from their platform. And then they do live webinars as well. But it would be easy enough to just kind of designate some of those webinars for a sub if we knew that they were going to be subbing for us for an extended period of time, and say, these might be valuable for you to watch, just to kind of get a lay of the land. So that's another aspect of StudySync that we were really impressed with.
Yeah, I was watching videos over the weekend when we knew about this coming up, and I was watching. I think it's a great tool. I was just thinking in that mindset of technology and bringing technology, and if you're not familiar, you're not trained with it, are we going to lose valuable classroom time with trying to figure out the tool, and how do we close that gap ahead of time?
It's a good question.
So.
Yeah.
I had one other question. In your answers to questions about the future and the possibility for these electives continuing, and thank you for that. I guess shifting gears now with what I anticipated hearing tonight and what I'm now hearing. Now those 12th grade teachers, instead of learning their new electives curriculum, because we're a small school district. We have a set number of English teachers, and I have the advantage of having a kid go through the high school, so I know them. So instead of those teachers learning and preparing that the electives that they've been creating, they are now going to be preparing and choosing novels from StudySync. What I'm not understanding is, Dr. Mahan, you said this electives will be not in place of, but in addition to core curriculum. So if we ever intend to offer those electives, and we will have the 12th grade English teachers teaching StudySync, and we have a limited staff, how are we going to have teachers available to teach these electives without hiring additional English staff? I just don't see how, because in addition to would be, because you're saying, Dr. Mann, you said part of this decision is we want to have our 12th grade students be embedded in a core instruction of 12th grade, and therefore an English elective such as perhaps those listed would be on top of. I don't see the staff we have without hiring to be on top of, because we have a limited English staff as it is.
I'm very happy for that question, because one of the things that we have done here, right, is, and people sometimes say, well, you're always looking to cut staff. We're not, right? We are looking to appropriately utilize our resources where the needs are. And if we find that there is kids are just overwhelmingly interested in the theater course or in the feminine literature or the sports, whatever it happens to be, right? That's where we will push resources. And if we see that kids are really wanting to take those, we'll hire an English teacher.
How are you going to assess that without offering them and giving the kids a chance to sign up?
I think there's capacity within the schedule for us to do that kind of thing, for sure.
So you're saying we have the staff now that we would need to, I understand from a rollout perspective and biting off more than you can chew and the whale one bite at a time.
Yeah.
But you're saying that we have enough staff now to not when the curriculum is ready, but if the curriculum was all written and ready right now, we have enough staff right now to offer those 4 electives to students to see if there is an interest in them?
Well, and I'm not sure we'd offer 4 English electives at the same time in the first year.
Okay, but we would have enough staff to offer 2?
But we have history electives, we have science electives, and we have capacity within there. And if we see that there's student interest in particular electives, that's where we move our resources. And so maybe as, just for example,
right.
Let's say that, again, if we need to hire, we hire, but there is a finite number of people. And let's say that a history teacher retires, right? But we find that this new English has a huge interest and they're drawing people from history electives, right? Well, then maybe we say when we hire a new person, we allocate our resources to say, look, there's been a shift. There's a great interest in this particular area. And so as a result, as we bring new staff in, we do it to meet the demands and needs of and interest of the students who are taking those courses.
But the reason we have those flexibility in science electives and in history electives is because this high school does not require you to take a science course all 4 years, so that there is the opportunity for those staff to open up their schedule to then offer electives. English, we currently require you to take English all 4 years. So yes, while we offer science electives and social studies electives, it is my understanding we have never before offered English electives, in part because you have to take English all 4 years. And so how would we staff?
Because I'm very confident in sitting down, looking at staffing and who has which certificates in the building. And maybe this person has an English certificate and they have a history dual certificate they haven't taught. And maybe there's a decrease in electives because of this high demand and we could shift resources. I mean, that is how we manage a high school.
Okay. So you're saying staffing isn't an issue. It's just curriculum.
I'm saying if we have an overwhelm, and again, I'm not saying we're going to drop 4 brand new electives in a single year, because that's just like, whether it's history, math, or whatever it is, it's not something we would do. But if we have a particular elective that we say, hey, here's where we want to go with it, let's drop it in, let's see how it goes, we can find capacity to do it. And if we see that there's student demand, we push our allocation of resources to meet student demand. And I'm confident that we have the skills to do that exact kind of thing.
And we do that in advance through the course selection process. And so we would have indicators to help us plan for that.
To help staff for that once you offer the course to see and the indicators. Okay, thanks. We've been on this topic a lot. Thank you for taking all of our questions. I do see, while everyone's thinking if they have anything else they want to ask, I just want to, there's a small crowd here tonight. And so I saw a teacher walk up and sign in to speak, and it is about this topic. I would like to take the opportunity instead of to give that individual, if they so choose, the opportunity to speak now while we're still on the topic, or save your comments till visitor comment at the end. Would you like to speak since it's topical? Would you like to speak now? If you could mic up somehow, I'm sorry, just so we can all hear you.
And are we going to have to respond now?
Okay. 100%. Yeah, absolutely.
I just want to make sure if it's an interaction.
I figured since it's topical and you're
Actually,
yeah.
everything that I was going to say was already said. I just wanted to talk about or put on the radar then, if we are looking to do the electives in the future, about the staffing issue, because we're the only content area that requires 4 years. So that was an issue as I'm sitting there. And I think the confusion was we keep calling them electives, but the intention was in 12th grade, yes, they weren't really electives, because as Dr. Mahan pointed out, they were going to be required. Students were required to take them. Our teachers worked diligently on preparing for the courses, and there was a lot of legwork. So you all are right. It was a decision that was not necessarily made by the teachers. So just like for the students listening, we were excited to do that. However, they were told to halt, that Study Sync was going to be moved into 12th grade. So now our teachers are going to tackle Study Sync, head on with the rest of our professional development. It was exciting to hear that if this is something in the future that you are considering, that you would consider paying the teachers, because for a very long time in this district, teachers were not paid to write curriculum. And I certainly don't want the expectation moving forward, like next year, Study Sync's a huge beast. So professional development will be Study Sync. So there's no way professional development time, in my opinion, as an English teacher in the classroom every day, teachers can, in addition, write curriculum for potential electives down the road. So those were things that I wanted to point out, but you all started to point those out. And then my concern was, I just wanted to put on the radar, the way that we are staffed right now, every English teacher has a full load. So I was hearing, well, we can do those electives in addition to what we teach, but there's something would have to give there. But you all brought that up. So okay. Thank you.
And I never want to miss an occasion to thank Mrs. Boucher for her constructive work and her advocacy, because while we don't always disagree, we always work together in very constructive ways. So I thank you, and sincerely.
Don't always disagree or don't always agree?
Well, we don't always. What did I say?
You said we don't always disagree.
Well, that's true too, right? That is true too. That is true too. We so often agree. We occasionally disagree, but we never disagree disagreeably, and we work together very positively. So thank you for that. And we can find capacity to make these things work. And if someone from the history department comes over and says this is a great thing and adds demand to a particular, or science or whatever it happens to be, someone goes up with someone that we love math, well then we're gonna adjust. That has been like how we do things here. So
I want to give everybody the opportunity before we close out that presentation and move into our I'm blanking on the terminology, high school course of studies presentation, I believe.
Yes. So I'm going to introduce Mr. Miller to talk about our high school course of study, and I'm going to take the opportunity to say that it is a dynamic document, and anyone who looks through it can say Southern Lehigh students have lots to pick from, right? There's some really, really great things, and it's a dynamic document, and I thank Mr. Miller for his leadership in putting this together. And Mr. Miller, you could talk about, I think you're going to focus mostly on the changes that are coming up, and any questions for Mr. Miller?
Correct. So good evening, board. Prior to this, I gave you guys 2 documents. One was actually 3. I provided everybody with the current 2023-24 program studies, which is what we used this past year during our course selection process and what outlines our requirements. Additionally, with that, we gave you a synopsis of our changes that we've made in certain subject areas, as well as what a comprehensive draft would look like for voting on January 22nd. Some of the highlights I do want to cover with you, just that we always continue to work through. On page 13, we did update what was considered dual enrollment. As Dr. Mann and I have spoken previously, dual enrollment is almost.
Mr. Miller,
sorry.
there's a question.
We're all kind of looking at each other. We're all new at this and we're trying to find the files, but also my experience tells me we did receive your summary document, but when you say page 13 of
At the very bottom of the summary
Of the summary
there's
document?
2 links. That one
Thank
is
you.
POS
Okay,
2425
so-
with the date.
got you. So
My
if
apologies.
no, that's okay. We're just catching up. So if for anyone
Still
who's looking
apologize
for
anyway.
it within the course of studies summary document on the agenda linked at the bottom of the summary.
You'll see the current program of study link there. You'll also see the draft 24-25 there.
Gotcha.
To reference the summary.
All right. So we're all on the same page finding
I thought I was trying to be comprehensive. It's trying to keep it all in one spot
right.
for you.
So are we all caught up on now we can find page 13 that Mr. Miller's talking about if we so desire. Thanks so much. I'm sorry for the interruption, Mr. Miller.
My apologies, Mrs. Gannon.
Okay,
Not
great.
a problem. So on page 13, like I said, to highlight for everyone, dual enrollment was an initiative started before I got here. And since we've been here, we have done a ton of expansion to make it what we've called our college credits program. We have gone from 4 pathways for students to receive college credit to 7 pathways at this time, because of our introduction of the CLEP testing program, to our expansion in dual enrollment with LTRI-C, Seton Hall, Pitt, our off-campus work with the sales, our high school scholars program with Lehigh. We've expanded this. Students are continuing to get more and more opportunities, and we are looking to see what other courses we could potentially add, either through electives or courses that we are currently teaching that align to college credit that students should be able to have opportunities to. So that was one of the big highlights of there, and we have cleaned that up as well. This will be a highlight focus when we do our course selection process in early February for all of our current freshmen through juniors, and small things we'll highlight for our incoming freshmen. They don't have the extensive opportunities, but we'll still highlight to help them begin their planning process as they work through the high school. In terms of our departmental work, we do break it down by departmentally for you after that. English has been covered extensively tonight about our change with StudySync, but all of those course recommendations, all of those course requirements and descriptions have been updated. Math has no significant changes solely because math is one of the focus points of the 24-25 school year. Because of science with the NGSS curriculum that's already been established by PDE for 25-26 implementation, that has had a little bit more of a focus, as well as English has. With science, we are looking to remove a course, and that course was due to low enrollment numbers, and it doesn't align to NGSS standards. And we realized instead of putting all of our focus into rewriting a course that we can't make work to state requirements and the enrollment is so low, we found we can add a new course in terms of geology, meteorology, and astronomy. It was a course we had here previously, did not have low enrollment. It is a course that does align to NGSS standards. It gives students other opportunities at the upper levels. And we realized the addition of this would be a huge benefit to our students as they get to their upper level of their career.
Just to clarify, sorry, the NGSS standards you're talking about are the new standards the state rolled out. Just the acronym is formed.
Correct. So that's next gen science standards.
So we are in compliance with all of our science courses currently,
We are
but
working.
the
yes.
state changed its requirements and therefore we need
Right.
to change.
And all the requirements have to be fully implemented by 26-27. We're looking for a 25-26 implementation a year in advance. So that way we can actually make sure that we can work out any kinks, any bugs, and that for 26-27, we're at full 100% compliance and we're not chasing our tail in essence in 26-27.
Great, thanks. I just wanted to
You're
clarify
welcome.
that. And I'm not sure what NGSS stands for, but the
Next gen
requirement.
science standards.
All right, thank you.
I
Next
have it
gen
for
science.
you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. In terms of social studies, we are doing a systematic change in social studies. Just as we did it with English, we've gone through a 2-year process of reviewing where we are social studies wise. And we've come across one of our biggest concerns is while we want civics and government to be a requirement, something all students need, can use beyond the high school walls, we realize having it for 14-year-olds, there's a lack of connection in terms of real world availability. Additionally, when we did a 7 through 12 analysis with Dr. Solomedo, myself, and all of the social studies teachers, we realized with the 8th graders taking U.S. History 1, having a break and then going to U.S. History 2 in 10th grade, there was a disconnect in the rationalization of U.S. history and leading to the U.S. government and politics we currently have. So after much discussion with our social studies teacher, Dr. Solomato leading that charge, Mr. McConnell's insight as well from administration, we realized moving U.S. history down to 9th is a natural extension of the 8th grade U.S. History 1, moving world cultures to 10th as an extension of what U.S. history implemented, and then rolling that into 11th grade, where students who are 17, some late 16-year-olds on the verge of getting ready for voting and being aware, are going to get civics and government and have an extension of where U.S. history and world history led them into the world of politics. We feel it's a much more natural alignment. Students will have much more interest and they can see the aspects outside of it. This rollover has a 3-year plan for us. We will have a major double up in U.S. history next year, followed by another major double up in world history in 25-26. And then come 26-27, it'll be full implementation with 9th being U.S., 10th being all world, and 11th being the civics and government. Now that's a lot. I'll pause to make sure I don't have any questions.
I have a quick
Yes.
Thanks for explanation. When you say the major double up, are you saying that you're going to try to roll this out so that
So our current 9th graders are going to stay on the path we've already laid out under this program of studies. So they're taking civics now, they'll go to US, then they'll go to world. Our incoming 9th graders will be the first one on this pathway of doing US to world. So that's why our courses are going to be a little different next year in terms of numbers, but we've
So in
mapped it out.
effect-
We know we're going to be good.
So in fact, you're grandfathering current high school
Correct,
students
we
into the
are.
current pattern so that you can continue to proceed at that. Thank you for that explanation.
For some of our other courses, world language, health and physical education, business, we don't have any major changes to them. There was no other requirements from the state. We realized we're meeting all the requirements we needed to in terms of dual enrollment for our district-wide goals, and what our student enrollment shows is a proper fit. The next major changes came from our family and consumer sciences. We did look very in depth at what our current courses are doing, and we looked at what our master schedule details us in terms of limitations for students. From there, we realized if we would take our family and consumer science class from a year-long class to a semester-based class and cut out almost a repeat of topics that are currently held in our Health 2 curriculum, what we can do is actually offer more opportunities for students who are taking family and consumer science to take more art, more business, and more technology education courses and greater flexibility in our master's schedule. We spoke with them in depth, and any of the extra curriculum that we are not going to cover in the upcoming years will not be missed, because we did realize we had a little bit of an overlap based in some of our other courses like Health 2 and Foundations of Technology. So we're not losing anything. We're just opening up more opportunities for students to get more elective experience and greater flexibility in their schedule. One of our biggest changes did come also in our tech ed and our STEM world. 2 of those changes came about from one, our PLTW course curriculum that we do purchase and are systematically a part of. And the other part came from looking at what we currently offer as in-house courses such as Architectural 1 and Computer-Aided Design. We realized, again, we could take that year-long course and break it up into 2 even parts. And doing that actually allows our students to have greater availability. When we did a 3-year comparison, we realized students were choosing between doing tech ed or doing art, or doing tech ed and doing FCS. And we were tired of seeing students not have opportunity to do multiple experiences and get a broader range before they left the high school walls. After working with our 2 technology education teachers, they both were in agreement and realized they can take their year-long courses, split them into 2 semester-based courses, and allow students the opportunity to take and work in one, determine if they want to continue in that path or change without losing experiences. We also have this greater availability, having more semester-based courses and not year-long courses, that again, students have more flexibility in the schedule to have more experience earlier on in their sophomore and junior year and not wait till their senior year. Any questions on those changes?
Now, you pretty much answered what I was going to ask you, so that's great. But regarding master schedule and student opportunity, I just want to bring up one thing that maybe you could investigate over time. And this is when you have students at LCTI, for example, that are in the emerging health or animal sciences programs. They're on a college track, many of them. And it ends up that there are certain limitations with regard to some classes because they're only offered in the morning when they're there at LCTI, which prevents them from taking them here. Things such as physics, chemistry, there are a lot of conflicts. I don't know if there's a way to maybe investigate to see how that could split up so those students have the opportunity to take some of those and not have the conflict and miss them, because then, of course, once they matriculate into a college program, they're missing it, that sort of thing. So just food for thought, something maybe to investigate.
And we will continue to investigate. I will let you know that every year our high school schedule is built solely on the requests we get. So we never do a rollover schedule as some other districts do, where they just take this format, jump it the next year, and if you fit in, you fit in. We constantly investigate and go also our course selection numbers. So our goal is to always move where we have the greatest amount of flexibility or the greatest amount of students enrolling in those courses. With the addition of the animal sciences, that second program, we will have to take a look. When it was just emerging health, it was a little bit easier. Animal science, something we'll have to dive into. But we do a fresh build every year based on course requests to make sure that we get the maximum number of students enrolling into their requests.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Mr. Miller, I just want to thank you for sharing that you build your master schedule and are student-centric.
Thank you. Yeah, we always do it off the requests every year. We just start fresh every year and break it down to nothing. Thank you. I appreciate it.
No, that's great. And I know every year you try to fit those LCTI students in. Sometimes the difficulty, and it's a really good point that Stephen Mon made. Like, that's why he's our rep at LCTI. It's a really good point. Those numbers, sometimes it's hard. You might have a greater quantity of students that it would fit the schedule for, but LCTI has a fewer students, but yet a greater scheduling need. And thank you for working. I know that's such a task, but thanks for keeping an eye on that. And really good point, Stephen.
Yeah, and I would say that only part of that is our singleton courses, our highest level AP courses. They do drive our schedule, and sometimes they're just a conflict, and sometimes you just can't take everything in a schedule, unfortunately. So finally, our last little bit of changes in terms of our LCTI. We received the updates from LCTI as we do every year. We are just made our adjustments based on their recommendations, and our course selection sheets at the end are something we just added last year. These are guidelines for our 9th through 12th grade parents, so they can easily see what is a requirement and what are potential electives, so students can actually map out a potential course and know what they should be requesting and when.
Yeah, Mr. Kearney.
I saw that Pennsylvania, I don't know if this is directed to you or this way, or
It's
if
okay.
way too early.
I'll let you know. I'll let you know.
The new Pennsylvania law 2627, the personal finance, the literacy course is going to be mandatory instead of elective, it looks like now.
Yes.
So then it says it'll be a half credit, 9, 10, 11, 12, 9, 10, 11, or 12. But PDE is going to be putting out some model curriculum. So I didn't know what's in place or what needs to be in place if it's too early to think about.
So we did get that notification from PDE. I've already started conversations with Dr. Solometto, Dr. Trinkle as well, and we've already started working with our counselors. We understand when we're adding a mandatory half credit into our schedule, we want to find the appropriate placement between the 9th and 12th grade years so that our students aren't losing opportunities for AP, aren't losing opportunities for dual enrollment, are able to still do their band, their course, their LCTI. So we are trying to do a map out right now. We have a lot of unbelievably high-flying students. We have a lot of very overly involved students who do too many things or try and take 9 credits a year when we only have 8 credits available in a schedule. So we are doing some projective models to figure out where it is. Our idea and goal is to have the initial round in for 25-26 program of studies. So again, that we are ahead of the 26-27 requirement. If there needs to be one more adjustment, we at least have actual data and an actual plan that's not going to have a negative impact.
Excellent question.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anything else? And my apologies, Mr. Carney. You're going to have to kick me every time I mispronounce your last name. Mr. Carney. Yeah, thank you. I said it wrong the first time, so I apologize. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Miller?
Hey, I'll just say on behalf of being Southern Lehigh alumni class of 2009, like when I read through this over the weekend and read everything, I mean, kudos, Dr. Trinkle, Dr. Solometto, and Josh. I know you're new into this, but I'll rope you into it too. this is great to see on behalf of where it came from when I was here in 2009. I mean, Miss Boucher's here. She started when I was still here, when I was starting in high school. But from what's offered now to what was offered back then when I was here, like this is awesome to see the progress and the availability that our kids are having from what myself and my friends and peers had 10, well, we won't talk how many years ago now.
Let's keep dating her, Eric. Keep dating her. Yeah.
I too want to say that to Mr. Miller and his staff in collaboration with his departmental leaders, his teachers, and Dr. Solometo have put very thoughtful. We have been talking. We've been talking about the program of study. I feel like since Mr. Miller was hired here, in an effort to constantly make it the way it looks now, in responsive needs to our student, to our demographic, to what we see as projections. Very thoughtful, just like the financial literacy mandate from the state. We're already well underway. And that's kudos to Great Works from his leadership and with his team of teachers. So I wanted to thank you publicly for all that hard work. You've done a great job.
It was I was upset. I was telling my wife when I was looking over this over the weekend, I said some of these classes I had to wait till college to take. So it's great to see some of those in there. Most importantly, being the one that was just reintroduced for the earth sciences. That's what I studied in college. I didn't get an opportunity to take any of that in high school here. So
earth science.
Yeah. So awesome. Good work.
All right. Thank you all.
Thanks very much. All right. Thank you for that discussion and those presentations. We appreciate it. Moving on to number 5, budget and finance. We have a preliminary discussion of the 22-23 local audit. However, I know our business manager is unable to be here tonight.
Right. And we could pretend he was supposed to give it and then move on.
Oh.
But I was actually going to handle that one. And I was given the hour. We'll move quickly. But I want to express Mr. Pepe's regrets. He had a minor procedure today and could not possibly be here. And that jars my memory that I was also asked to convey Mrs. Reinhardt's regrets. She is ill and unable to join us tonight as well. So with that said, in our next meeting on January 22nd, our local auditor will be coming to do a formal presentation on the audit report. And our school district, public school districts in Pennsylvania are heavily audited. We have federal audits, state audits coming in, but the one audit that we're looking at now is a local audit, which the board hires to take a look at our financials. And this is the first year we have a new firm doing it. We had a long-standing relationship with our previous auditor. He retired, and we've been very, very impressed with this new firm. They've been challenging us to look at our internal controls, our process, our procedures. We've made great advancements in monitoring federal programs and our accounting for federal programs. So this has been a very, very good experience for us. And we look forward to talking more about that when we hear the report. The audit is really, while we talk about budget constantly, right? The audit report is like a point of demarcation going forward, because one of the key aspects of budgeting is looking at actuals, right? And this is the indication of actual performance in our most recent audited year, which is 22-23. And I'm very pleased to report, and certainly you'll have ample opportunity to actually speak to the auditor about this when he comes to present in next month. But things are very positive, right? The audit report is, it's clear. There are no findings in the report, so we have a clear audit report. We've ended up with a surplus for the year, positive surplus, which has been the case. And so we're building on that. And so in all respects, I think we can look at this audit report and say, good, right? Congratulations to the board, all the people who've worked so hard, people in the district. So it's a very, very positive development. Now, that said, in spite of strong results, I also will tell you, as we look into the budget, we also have some challenges going forward, right? And some of those things going forward is, we've increased our debt. We've done some 2 good projects at the stadium and the high school, at the middle school for the exterior wall refurbishment, at the intermediate school, right? Because we had the brick. So we had 2 issues. We increased our debt a bit. We have, and this will be another topic of discussion coming up, about $14+ million worth of major maintenance projects over the next 5 years. Our value, the other challenge we face that will be reflected in the report is that our mill is kind of under attack in that businesses are looking at something called the common level ratio, how properties are exchanging in the Lehigh Valley and in Lehigh County specifically. And they are, based on that external information to our district, being able to make the case that their tax, the amount of tax bill they pay should go down. And certainly we only want people paying what's fair, but that does impact us as we are going forward. We are looking at some spikes in medical and pension costs going forward. So what I'm saying is we're in good shape, right? We'll have a very positive audit report. We have challenges in front of us, but for a brief moment when this auditor presents next week, we can take a sigh of relief and say, hey, this was a pretty good thing. So I could take some, broad-based questions, but certainly the auditor will be, and Mr. Pepe will be in a much better position to respond to questions next week. But I wanted to say this is a preview of coming attractions. You have the report in draft form, and we'll be ready to respond to any questions you might have. Okay? And then,
Thank you very much.
yes,
Yeah, moving on to item 6, facilities.
moving on to
You're-
item
this is
6.
Still on your.
I am. This
all
is
right, keep going,
pitch
Dr.
hitting,
Mann.
and we'll move quickly.
Alrighty.
And so the few things on our facilities, I want to alert the board that, as noted in the audit, we have about $14 to $17 million of major maintenance projects coming forth in the next 5 years or so. And EI Associates, which is the district's engineer, has been working on prioritizing some of those projects. They include things like the Liberty Bell roof, Liberty Bell chillers, the middle school roof, not all of it, but sections, the HVAC systems and control systems across the district. Boilers are always a challenge. We have some boilers that are coming on, concrete work, paving, and a whole bunch of things. Now, we'll be coming and presenting in detail about some of these challenges. We're working with the facility committee and the full board in prioritizing and scheduling these types of things. But again, we're looking forward to this process, and it's an exciting one. Maybe not as exciting as doing roofs and HVAC and paving parking lots, but in a real way that is exciting because it's important to our stewardship of these buildings and facilities that are so good and that we're so fortunate to have for our students and our community. So any questions on the project prioritization? All right. Moving on, we've had, I think Mrs. Boucher can agree with this, we had problems where our doors would work perfectly with locks and buzz in, and then all of a sudden randomly they wouldn't. And then we would go over to see what was happening, and they would work, right? And it was befuddling, right? It was very frustrating. Now, never was it, as my understanding, it didn't lock, right? It just wouldn't open. And so finally, after looking at this with our facility department and with Mr. Suma from our tech department, we find that we believe that a district-wide upgrade of our firmware, which is the computer system that operates the locks, all right, that goes back to our server, will be so we're underway on that because we thought that's kind of an urgent thing. We didn't want to wait around and study it 16 different ways. So we're moving forward with fixing the firmware for all of our doors. We anticipate that those very real challenges that our staff was facing is the fault of this firmware issue. And I'll also tell you that I'm pleased to say that, remember we talked about server virtualization, and we did a big, long project with that. And now, because we have a virtual server in place, we can now create our own server within our large server to manage this firmware update instead of spending about $5,000. So I commend the board for and our technology department for that forward-looking. And we said this was going to happen. It was going to save us some money in the future, even though it cost us up front. So we're going to be able to do virtualized servers for our firmware update of our locking system across the district. Any questions? I'll move on. And then finally, I want
to one question. Yes. Anticipated rollout of that, like how?
Very soon. Chris, do you have a thought? Like weeks? Mike? What do you know, Mike?
We've had an implementation meeting with the vendor a week. Yeah, okay. On the 16th.
On the 16th. So we'll have a better update then, but this is not going to be a terribly long project.
That was my question. I know supply chain for depending on what you need sometimes is okay, good. No parts, just kind of a, all right, sounds good, thanks. Okay, good, thanks.
Right. And then finally, with respect to facilities, and I sent out a note to the board, but I want to thank the PTA from Liberty Bell for their generosity, work, and effort of putting up, I think, about $50,000 in funding for us to redo the playground. We'll have something on the agenda to formally approve this in January, but I just wanted to make the occasion to thank them for their contribution to our facilities and the environment, the educational environment down at Liberty Bell Elementary. So, Mrs. Gieman, I think that concludes my report, and we leave it to HR.
All right, thank you. No, I'm seeing no questions, so moving on. Dr. Ake Little, you're up for, well, we'll let you know. Just tap it. Nope. Dead.
All right, well, I'm loud enough. I'll try to be loud enough. So we have 2 items for your consideration. The first is a motion to acknowledge the hiring of our new assistant principal, who is in the audience, Melissa Petronio, who will begin in February. Currently, she is slated to start on the 19th, but we are hoping that that may happen sooner, depending on her circumstances. And the second is a motion to approve the hiring of an independent employee. This is Kimberly Boniak. She is going to be our coordinator of maintenance and transportation. That is a new position that has emerged from the consolidation of 2. One, which is a secretarial position that was vacated in the fall, and the other coming from the retirement of our current coordinator of transportation, who is Suno, who is retiring actually, as of the end of, yes, there we go, at the end of this month.
All right.
I'm trying to figure out what month we are.
And yeah, and the board previously acknowledged and wish Sunil the best of luck in her retirement So thank you. This is the first momentous vote we have of the evening to get ourselves a new high school assistant principal. Could I please have a motion to approve the HR report personnel items?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Cruz. Second, Mr. Mond. Thank you very much. Any other questions or discussion points? I'll save my congratulations for after the vote. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? All right. Welcome aboard. Thank you so much. Thank you for hanging with us in the back there. We can't wait to see your face in our high school hallways. You're welcome to say hi to us or mosey on out. We really appreciate you hanging in there and listening to this conversation. So thank you and welcome. We'll say hi to you in the future. All right, you're welcome. All right, moving on to committee reports. I'm going to take our I'm going to take our voting item first here. We have a LCTI Joint Operating Committee representatives to appoint to a new term. We have Mr. Carney and Mr. Mond. Mr. Mond has served on the LCTI board. We thank him for his work, and he brought insight tonight that's valuable. Southern Lehigh has 2 positions available for representatives on that board, and Mr. Carney has stepped up and volunteered to be the other representative to attend the LCTI meetings once a month and report back to us. So we really appreciate you both stepping up to volunteer to go to those additional external board meetings. Could I please have a motion to appoint Mr. Carney and Mr. Mond to the LCTI JOC?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Cruz, for the motion and Ms. King for the second. And seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? All right, moving on under committee reports.
Thank you.
Yes. Moving on. Thank you very much for both of you volunteering to do that to serve that 3-year term. Although, we'll understand if you want to pass it off, as is often the case. All right, now committee reports, other reports. I know that we, at a reorganization meeting in December, we had mentioned, and I'd asked board members to reach out for those committees they were interested in serving on. I want to thank you all for your responses. We had great diversity of interest, and we had interest in forming a few additional committees. Those being the education committee. We currently have a negotiations committee and a facilities committee. Those meetings will continue. We had interest. We're going to form a technology committee, as well as an education committee and policy committee. And we had interest in all of those committees. Committee chairs, we have not yet announced the schedule for public meetings. That is in development. Committee chairs, and we'll be leading those up, and we'll be announcing a schedule and posting those public meetings as we get to them in this new calendar year. But I do know that in addition, Mr. Carney volunteered to be our sole representative on the ACMC committee, and there has already been a meeting of that committee. So if you'd like to make a report of your first meeting there at the ACMC committee for the board.
Thank you for the vote for the LCTI. I'm looking forward to working with Stephen and being involved with the LCTI. The ACMC, we met December. Oh yeah, I held up Ethan from his vacation. Jesse and Chris were the teachers on board, and we had a great discussion on online and the rigor of online versus brick and mortar. And we've approved online in the past, and so we just talked about that's still happening. As a matter of fact, we did this month.
And I'm sorry for reference, I was guilty of using an acronym and not explaining what it meant. It's the continued education. This committee helps decide and approve continuing education courses for our staff members. So when Mr. Carney's talking about brick and mortar versus online, he's talking about continuing ed for our staff members.
And then the other discussion that we had is that there's an approved providers list. And we talked about how that's supposed to be a guideline and not a rigid list, because there is a caveat that we can approve other providers. And so we just talked about, somehow letting teachers know that is just a guideline. And I think Jessie talked about she's already working on that, or they have in the past. So that was our meeting.
Great. Thanks for that report. Appreciate it. Would anyone else, we haven't any public meetings yet, but any of the other committee chairs have anything else to say about planning or moving forward? If I'll give you the opportunity.
I'll just speak on behalf of the facilities meeting. So there will be a public meeting that will be scheduled later on this month. I'll work with Dr. Mann. New members being on board of the facility committee, we have some items that we need to review in order to prepare for that first meeting, so that way the first meeting is productive. So stay tuned for an announcement for that later this month or beginning in February.
Great, thanks. Anyone else? Oh, go ahead, Mr.
I'll
Torba.
just piggyback off you, Mr. Boyer. The tech committee just going to round up everyone and find a date that works so that we can initially meet and set some objectives and then move forward.
Wonderful.
Stay tuned.
Great, thank you. We will indeed. And go ahead, Mr. Carney.
Education committee, we have some topics perhaps for the agenda already, but looking forward to getting together as soon as we can.
Great. And policy committee, we just have a lot of policy go through and update, and that's much more of a straightforward journey that Mr. Little has already been walking the board through, and we'll continue on that and do more of discussions outside in a committee format. All right, that concludes, unless I'm missing someone, the committee report portion of our agenda. Anything for new business? Seeing, I'm sorry.
I'm not sure if it's new business, old business, but I had some observations of things that I saw in the district that I'd like to point out.
Okay.
So I don't know where that fits.
Okay, board sharing kind of thing. All right, well, I'm going to take that under other business. Any new business anyone has? No, seeing no one. All right, yes, by all means. We often do this when I serve on the CLIU board. I know, Mr. Carney, you were a frequenter of the visitor comment mic, always bringing good word from our district. And so by all means, board sharing, it's a great time for other business.
Thank you. Some habits die hard.
Yeah.
So some quick notes. The musical is going to be Addams Family. It will be mid-March right now. They've been working hard all year, basically, but they're doing set builds. So if anybody has some expertise, actually, you don't even need expertise. I don't know what I'm doing, but if anybody can come out and help out, that would be great. Liberty Bell holiday event. I had a great time there. I love the stations and activities that they had set up for all the parents. The winter concert, I know Mike was there. I was blown away last year, and I think this year blew me away some more.
It's amazing.
There was a violin solo that she was incredible. As a matter of fact, the conductor said, I don't know how she's going to top it next year, but she will. And then the narrators, the choreography of the clap song, that was actually done by a student. I didn't find out till afterwards, and that was incredible. The robotics team had a kickoff yesterday. They have to design and program a robot to hang from a chain and do a ring toss, and that's another incredible program that not too many districts have. State Theater, I went to State Theater and saw a play, and I was so thrilled in the middle to see one of our students on the ad for the Freddie Award. So Southern Lehigh, proud for that. Martin Luther King Day, just happy Martin Luther King Day to everybody. And I would encourage people to go to the art museum. It's free on Martin Luther King Day, and they have some really great programming. I've gone in the past, and it's pretty cool. And then finally, Hopewell holiday event. I just want to thank all the vendors that went and supported the event. There was wonderful breakfast there. There were vendors, including a nurse from our district, a cafeteria worker, and I just want to do a special thanks to the teacher that makes this scrub. I'm just passing on, I don't know who it is, but you helped my wife have a wonderful Christmas. And if anybody wants to sample it, I'm doing a plug for you, so I want to cut. But it was just a fantastic event, and I enjoyed seeing it. And I think the families and students all had a great time too.
All right. Thanks so much, Mr. Carney. Really appreciate it. Anyone else for board sharing or other news around the district? Yes, Ms. Torba.
Yeah, I'd like to just congratulate, I don't know if everyone knew, our competitive cheer squad the high school competed this weekend at districts, and they finished fourth, 4 out of 10. So they are on the road to states, which they are heading out to Hershey. I think it's January 26th, 27th. So congratulations to, I think it's Coach Lee and Coach Doyle. And thank you to Mr. Spangler for that, our AD, for supporting them in their journey. And we wish them the best of luck. This is big to go to states.
That's great.
And I was never a cheerleader.
All right. Anyway. All right. Dr. Mann just said we had our first cosmetic plug, and there are many wonderful things going on throughout the district. And these are just some of the things the board members had a chance to participate in and see, and you're welcome to share them. But by all means, it's not a comprehensive list of all the amazing things our students are doing. All right. I do not see, it's a small crowd tonight. I do not see anyone else who's gotten up to sign in a visitor comment. So I'm going to assume there is no further visitor comment I see, in which case I am looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, so moves Mr. Mon, and we are adjourned. Thank you all very
Thank you all.
much.
Great meeting. Thank you.
Appreciate it.